I am recording this video from a place of frustration, and I don't mean to be overly negative with Destiny 2. Let me start this video by saying this. Destiny 2, as a baseline experience, from the beginning of the game all the way through to the end of the major content, which I would say even includes the raid, is a phenomenal game. The story is great. The campaign is awesome. The gunplay is as good as ever. The characters are fantastic. The level design is very, very good. The raid is really well designed. The strikes are a lot of fun. The PvP maps are very balanced. The weapon balance in this game is very, very good. The abilities are fun to use. So many things about this game are excellent. Destiny 2 is a great game for the first 50 hours. And after that, I have to say, Destiny 2 becomes atrocious. It is not good. I'm saying this while kind of just coming off of this heated moment I just had in Destiny while playing it. And I don't want to, be like, oh, I'm getting on here and going on a tirade, and I don't mean to do that. I've actually been meaning to record this video for several days now. And I wasn't sure I was going to record it right from the get-go until Trials of the Nine and the raid came out and then confirmed my fears and confirmed my issues with this game's biggest glaring problem. And a lot of people have brought this up over the past couple weeks. I've seen lots of Reddit posts about this, about how people are going, well, no, actually, this is the issue, or let's not actually wish that this is the way it was in Destiny 1 because of this and this and this. And I want to, approach this with a level head. I want to approach this in a way that I think is more sensible, and I think that I don't want to jump to immediate conclusions and go, Destiny 1 did this better, because it's not that easy of an answer. But the thing is it doesn't have to do with the fact that Destiny 2 had to change some things in Destiny 1 for the sake of balance, which this is the fixed roles on weapons. This is changing the economy and the way that things are acquired and things like that. They had to make it more streamlined. They had to be able to balance things more. I understand that. But the problem is, the biggest issue I have with this entire scenario and all the changes that Bungie has made is almost every single one of the changes that Bungie has made that is construed as negative at the moment was something they already messed up in Destiny 1 and fixed and are proceeding to mess up again. That is my biggest issue with this. The fact that Bungie had 3 years of learning from their mistakes actually made positive changes in Destiny 1's life cycle to improve upon these things, and are now systematically and on purpose taking steps backward in the development and in the creation of Destiny 2 for arbitrary reasons, for a simulation of what is progression, for this artificial feeling. It is pure artifice that all these changes have been made in Destiny 2 and are made for the worse. Let's talk about the first problem that Destiny 2 has. And this is kind of an all-encompassing issue, is the loot. I'm going to straight up say this, but the loot in Destiny 2 sucks. No, it all sucks. There are good exotics. There are a couple good legendaries here and there that are interesting in design and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, those exist. But the loot sucks. It's not good in Destiny 2. Right off the bat, let's talk about the legendary weapons. Now, again, people have brought this up repeatedly. I've brought this up. I've said, I get why they had to change this, but that doesn't change the fact that so many of these legendary weapons are so uninspired. They are so boring. They run on these very stock perks. Most of them perks, in fact, almost all of them perks that were just in Destiny 1 and not very desirable. They took out the best perks of Destiny 1, they took out the worst perks of Destiny 1, and they just gave us all the mediocre perks. That's not fun. This most standout weapons are the guns that suck the least. Not the guns that are the best, but are the guns that are the least cumbersome to use. The guns that have the least downsides to them. Those are the best weapons in the game, aside from one obvious weapon, which is MIDA multi-tool in the PvP space, and then like Sunshot and Merciless in the PvE space. Those guns are so obviously better than everything else. Which, this I think is this exactly shows what the problem is with Destiny 2. Let's talk about MIDA multi-tool for a second, because you need to understand the history that this gun has, and the fact that it is dominant is proof of why the loot in Destiny 2 sucks so bad. Because MIDA multi-tool was a very all-around weapon in Destiny 1. In fact, that's what its entire purpose was, is it was meant to be the all-around most versatile weapon in the game. It wasn't supposed to have any standout abilities. It was just supposed to be a literal jack of all trades. That is the literal design of the gun, not only in its perks, but in its lore. That is what it is meant to be, is the jack of all trades, and it continues that theme in Destiny 2. So why is it that the quote-unquote jack of all trades is actually a master of all? Not a master of none, but good at mediocre at everything. No, it's the best at everything. That shows right there a fundamental weakness in the design of everything else in this game. On top of that, it only became strong in the first Destiny because everything else got nerfed into the ground. That's when it finally shined, was when every other gun that was stronger than it and had standout abilities and had standout perks got nerfed into the ground. Right off the bat, that is proof, that is absolute proof that there is a huge glaring issue with the loot in Destiny 2. On top of that, they all have very boring designs. Half these guns are just dotted with the Suros or the Omalon logo or the Hawkeye logo or the Vanguard logo. No different from the guns in Destiny 1, which at least had personality and individuality to them. These guns do not. You get a Nightshade Pulse Rifle, you all have the kill shot perk. Every single player that has that Pulse Rifle has the kill shot perk on it. There is no difference. There is nothing special about that weapon you're holding. I'm sorry, everybody has it. Deal with it. There is no way to possibly get an advantage in the Crucible, obviously, unless you're running the same thing as everyone else. Everyone else has the exact same loadout. And that's the thing, is while yes, they have achieved this perfect balance, the problem is even with this, well, I'm saying perfect balance in quotes, they actually haven't, but the guns that are the best are actually now 100% the best. At least in Destiny 1, okay, when there were overpowered guns, there were still ways to work around those. There were still counter options. Now in Destiny 2, the only counter option you have for the best gun is shooting that same gun better. Which, you might go, well, that's the whole point of the game. Great, you've got 150 guns and you've only got 3 worth using. That's, I would straight up argue that's horrible design. Especially for a game that is defined as a looter shooter. This is a game that takes direct inspiration from looter shooters. It is a fundamental MMO/looter shooter, and it fails in the looter aspect of the looter shooter. Hardcore. Let's not even talk about the exotics for a second. Now, again, I think the exotic designs are fine. They are, for the most part, on par, sort of, as Destiny 1 was. However, I'm going to make one argument there. The 2 best weapons in PvE at the moment are Merciless and Sunshot. And if you can really, get your money's worth out of it, the Cold Heart exotic is pretty darn close up there if you can actually maintain consistency with it. One of those guns, the Sunshot, is literally just taken inspiration from a legendary weapon from Destiny 1, the Fatebringer. Made into an exotic. And again, like I said, it's not just a good exotic, it's one of the best. And it is based on what was, while yes, a special weapon in Destiny 1, it wasn't even an exotic weapon. Okay. That right there, I think, is a glaring issue. I can think of at least 5 or 6 exotics off the top of my head from Destiny 1, from the vanilla, from launch, that were more exciting, more interesting, and more valuable than the best exotics in Destiny 2 at the moment. Okay? Destiny 1 failed in a lot of areas. I'm not arguing that at all. But as the game grew, it got better. It learned from its mistakes. It made it so that RNG wasn't as horrible, you know, aside from, you know, grinding for the very, very special weapons. But hey, at least there were special weapons to grind for. It, you know, obviously it had a terrible story. It did fix that as it went on, and I would never say that any aspect of Destiny 1's story was even close as good as Destiny 2's. Destiny 1 had its failures. But the thing is that there is this endgame grind that Destiny is known for, okay? There's 3 grinds in Destiny. The first grind is the initial grind to power. This is to eventually get to all your endgame stuff. This is probably the thing that most players in Destiny completed and didn't really get beyond this point, which is a shame because the endgame in Destiny is, well, at least in Destiny 1, supposed to be excellent. Then there is the grind to max power. Now, this grind is, for the most part, arbitrary. Yes, you do want to grind to a certain point where you can at least be at a good enough level for all activities, even the hardest raid activity. You want to hit that level, but that's still not quite max power. You still have probably another 10 or 11 or something like that levels of power to go before you hit max when you reach that point. In fact, in some scenarios, you were like 20 off. So getting to max power was just about min-maxing your gear and, you know, hitting this arbitrary number that's no more special than a platinum trophy on the PlayStation Store. PlayStation Network, excuse me. And then there was the third grind, which is the grind for weapons. This is the grind for exotics. This is the grind for strike-specific legendary weapons and armor pieces. This is the grind for gear that makes you look cool. This is the grind for gear that makes you allows you to min-max your abilities and cooldowns in the Crucible and stuff like that. That's what the grind was in Destiny 1. Now, I think Destiny 2 handles the armor fine. But essentially, you can min-max, but you don't really. You are basically kind of confined to your stats based on what class you pick. Otherwise, you just pick armor that looks cool. I think that is the one thing of the loot, part of the loot that's handled excellently. The one aspect that is handled very, very well in Destiny 2. But they have reverted back to the bullcrap RNG that was in Destiny 1 when it comes to getting exotics. The fact that you can pull the same exotics over and over. In fact, in some ways, it's worse. Now, granted, yes, you can get exotics more often in Destiny 2. It's still a horribly unsatisfying feeling when I decrypt 5 exotic engrams and they all turn into Knucklehead Radar. Yes, that happened to me. It is an even more excruciatingly horrible feeling when I decrypt Cold Heart, a weapon that is literally given to me through a pre-order bonus that I already had. And people will argue, okay, well, they don't want you to get all the exotics at once. Okay, well, this is not the way to handle it. Do not give me an artifice of rarity by throwing the same crap at me over and over and over and over and over again and making me rely on RNG. That is not the way to do it. In fact, not only is that not the way to do it, you learned back in Destiny 1 that that is not the way to do it and thus fixed it. And now we're back to it, which makes it 10 times more inexcusable. Okay? And this isn't even talking about the whole weapon mods and shaders situation. I'm not even going into that, because honestly, that's an entirely other can of worms. It is stupid you can't remove mods. It is stupid you can't remove shaders rather than getting rid of them. I think that's very dumb. I think it's especially stupid with the mod situation that you can't take a legendary mod off, because there are some mods that are absolutely more rare than others. Cough, cough, kinetic weapon mods that are legendary. Way harder to get. You know, the fact that this aspect of the grind is handled so poorly actually destroys the end game of Destiny 2, okay? Because the raid and the trials gear isn't even that great. It's good, but it's not that great. For the most part, it just looks cool. And I would say even for the trials gear, I don't even think it looks all that cool. I would say just the raid stuff does. Sure, it's built around the activity you get it in. The raid weapons are a little bit better for the raid, but not much. And the trials gear is a little bit better for PvP sometimes. But you have effectively killed the aspect of Destiny that makes it playable once you've hit that arbitrary number. That number that you want to hit. Once you've hit that power level you desire to hit, the only thing left is the loot grind, is the grind for the gear that you want. And there is nothing to grind for, aside from filling up your exotic collection with a bunch of half-useless exotics and then some good ones. That's it. That's all there is. Destiny 1 was effectively, if you cared about the loot enough, if you liked the personality the weapons had, if you liked getting that gun that had those random perks on it that you went, maybe this isn't the best thing ever, but I think it could still be fun to use, you know, and being able to take that into the Crucible and use that, you can't do that anymore. I almost have every single legendary gun in Bungie's database at the moment sitting in my vault. This game has been out for 2 weeks. 2 weeks! And we're not getting another content drop until December. This is a fundamental failure. Like, I'm going to keep using that term. Fundamental failure on Bungie's part. Not counting all of the other problems I have with this game, which I think the rest of those are either nitpicks or they are personal opinionated gripes. I think the loot problem is all-encompassing. I think it's pretty much, for the most part, across the board, the fact that people are going, wow, everything I'm getting is crap. And this is the best stuff in the game. It's not even like they're not getting the Sunshot. They're not getting the Merciless, which was literally just given to us from Xur for a super cheap price. It's not like we're not getting those things. It's that you have 3 or 4 things to shoot for, and everything else that is supposedly the best stuff in the game is crap. It's actual crap. And I don't know how they're going to fix this. They're going to have to either very handcraft and personally make these future legendary weapons more exciting, which, based on the perk pool they have, based on the gun designs they have, I don't see them doing it. I don't see what they're going to do. They're going to have to completely rework these guns from the ground up. They're going to have to build this entire arsenal of guns that are interesting. You got a couple, like the old-fashioned and Hawthorne's field shotgun, and that one rocket launcher that blinds enemies or something like that. Like, they may not be amazing weapons, but at least they're interesting, you know. Weapons similar to what the strike-specific gear or the raid gear was in Destiny 1. We need stuff like that. You've got, like, the number of those that are sitting in Destiny 2 at the moment, I can count on one hand. And the raid is out. Trials is out. Something that wasn't out until the 3rd DLC in Destiny 1. All these things, all these avenues, all these different kinds of gear is out, and it all sucks. I'm sorry, but I've already got this strong urge to go back to Destiny 1. Like, that's sad. I've done everything in that game many times over, and I still feel like I'm going to get more reward out of that than I am out of this game that just came out. Like I said, I love the game. You know, it holds up through about 60 to 70 hours, which, you know, for most people and for lots and lots of games, that's plenty. But I've already hit this point where I feel like I'm just grinding in a Far Cry game, and that's not fun to me.